So, welcome to the Stellar Woman Show, the Stellar Woman magazine, the magazine that brings you thriving women's stories, knowledge, and experiences from across the globe so that you too can learn one or two things, be inspired, make a change, and bring about a difference and impact in your world and the world at large. We are here to bring you knowledge because we believe knowledge is power, of course, only if acted upon. And I am honored and thrilled to always bring you amazing, powerful women who have made a difference in the world. And we are happy that you have always been with us and you've loved all this knowledge and you've made a difference in your own lives. We transfer light from one woman to another. You tap into it so that we can make this world a better and a brighter world. So my name is Stella Olivia Kikoyo, and I'm the editor-in-chief of the Stella Woman magazine and your host for the show. And today I'm really honored and thrilled to bring you an amazing woman, Honorable Victoria Sekitoleko. Honorable, welcome to the show and to the magazine.
Thank you very much. It is really a pleasure to be here.
Fantastic. I know that some of you know this amazing woman, but I know that a lot of you are excited and waiting to know who is she. She is many, many things. She's a former Minister of Agriculture in Uganda, and some of you know that I am a Ugandan, the Ugandan government, a post she held for a long time and made a big difference in the ministry and the country, and of course elsewhere in the world. She has been a representative in United Nations Food and Agriculture. She has previously held many other roles, as we are going to learn from her, because I might not do it service very much to talk about the portfolio of many things that she has carried and had an honor to carry. Making a big difference in Uganda has been a great thing, but also making a difference in the world has been not only just her passion, but definitely we've tapped into it as almost a calling that most of us have been following from childhood, this amazing woman. And I have to tell you something. When I told my husband that I'm going to interview Honorable Victoria Sekitoleko, he's like, wow, how you have got one of the most powerful women in the world. That is amazing. And I have to tell you, she's influential. She has an influential voice in leadership, community, and women's empowerment. She has ignited hope across all generations. Thank you so much for the work you have done, Honorable. And I'm sure you're going to tell us more about what you have done and the things. So if you can help us to expand on just that little introduction. I don't think I've done it a great service, but just add more to that, Honorable.
Yeah, that is really a glowing introduction. I hope I'll live up to it because, like somebody said, once you are born, every single day you become older. So maybe you knew the younger version of me. Now you are with the older version, older model. But it's a pleasure to be here. I'm happy that as we talk now, I'm not only a mother, I'm a grandmother, but I think the role I have learned to enjoy most is being a foster mother. It is interesting how we all love that mother figure wherever we are. So one of my greatest joys, which I cannot put in my CV, is being a foster mother. Besides that, the fact that I'm retired, but extremely busy, is something I would like to share with others, because if you want to know the most difficult part of retirement, it's not like not having an office, having a title and all that. It is not being able to wake up with a purpose. You know, every morning is a different morning. If you have nothing to do on Monday, nothing to do on Tuesday, by the time you get to Friday, you are wondering, are you going to keep like this until death collects you? So all those and a few more are what I'm going to share.
Oh, thank you. That's an amazing part that you've introduced in there. Not only being a mother and a grandmother, which are really key roles, and then being a foster mother, extending your heart to the wider world. That is a deeper calling. Thank you so much for sharing that perspective. So today we are interviewing Honorable Victoria Sekitoleko in our Christmas issue, which is going to focus on Radiance Reborn. So this Christmas issue, we always invite all of us to pause and reflect. When you look at your life, Honorable, who is Victoria Sekitoleko in this moment?
Like I said, right now, I'm just me, a retired Ugandan who is really enjoying my time. You know, when you are young, you have to go to school and everybody is, checking on you. That is one thing, by the way, I noticed is more common in Uganda. In other parts like the Western world, they don't want you asking, especially if you're extended family, asking how the child is doing, because that puts stress on the child. In Uganda, you'll be stressed until you perform. The rest you sort out when you grow up. So when I was young, of course, I had people checking and how is she doing and where is she now and what next and so on and so forth. Then you get a job and you have those deadlines and all that. Then you retire and everybody's like, maybe you should go back to the president and ask for another job. But you retire and really retire and you are enjoying your life. Like here, I have a kitchen garden where I grow all the vegetables and most of the fruits I eat. The joy of harvesting my greens straight from my garden to my pot. The joy of hosting friends at a whim. You know, I sit there and I decide, what is so and so doing? Why don't we get together and just have fun? The
Wow.
joy of being able to just up and go and visit my sister. You know, I call her and I'm like, oh, I'm coming. Just don't prepare lunch. I'm bringing something. I sit there. I spend the afternoon with her. Those are things you can't do when you are in high school, when you are at university, when you are working, when you are a minister. You practically have to call before you arrive. So I am enjoying my life as an old retired woman.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank goodness for giving you the ability to be able to enjoy life. That means you're in good health as well to
Yeah,
be able to enjoy the
yeah,
life and designing it to really enrich you and others around you.
yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you very much. So, what were your dreams with growing up? We always want to know these amazing, powerful, stellar women. What are their dreams before they became who they are?
You know, I'm one of those people who will honestly tell you that I don't remember any brilliant dreams. All I know is when you get to around age 10, people start asking what you would like to be when you grow up.
Mhm.
At that time, I knew what I didn't want to be, but I didn't know what I wanted to be. Because the first thing I did not want to be, I did not want to be a nurse. Basically, because I told my father, I don't want to be dealing with sick people from morning to evening. Even if he explained, oh, you see, you make them better and whatever. I'm like, no, I want to find them better. So
Ah.
that one, yeah, that one and that little cap they wear on their head. I told my father, I don't think so. Then at one time, I think when I was at university, I I I I thought men in uniform looked very smart and handsome, and maybe one could have a husband from the army. That is before the wars in Uganda started, and I quickly changed my mind because I don't want to have a husband whose life is always on the front line. Other than that, really, most of what I have achieved, I can safely say that I found myself there. Like when I joined politics, it never ever occurred to me as a young girl that I would like to become a politician. How? Yeah.
Wow.
So
And yet
there goes my dream.
yeah, yet you're a powerful one. So at least what is so clear is knowing what you don't want so that you don't
Exactly.
find yourself in the wrong place. Yes.
Exactly.
Oh, that's
Mm.
very good. Thank you. Now, when you think about your childhood, what early experiences helped to shape, you believe, the woman you became later on?
First of all, coming from Jinja, Uganda, where I come from, nearly everybody was in agriculture. The richest person in my region is Madivani, and Madivani is in agriculture. So growing up, I knew I was going to end up somewhere in agriculture. But once again, I knew where I didn't want to end up. I did not want to end up as that woman who has got to wake up, go and dig in order to be able to eat. That was out. Secondly, I also knew I didn't want to be that woman who has got to process the food she's going to eat herself. You know, you go to the garden, you grow it. Let's say if you are growing millet, you have to harvest it, you have to grind it. No. That one, growing up, we are doing it. I made up my mind that this is definitely not going to be in my script. That was that. So eventually, when I'm in high school and we are doing domestic science, where we are taught how food is procured, how you get it, how you prepare it, who eats what, and all that. That is when it occurred to me that those chores which I hate at the farm, being a farmer's daughter, could actually be made simpler. This is what led me to choose to go to university and study agriculture. I wanted to see how one can make agriculture a joy and a commercial venture, which one can proudly be in, earn money, and live a comfortable life. So it is that drudgery of my upbringing which made me end up as, growing up as a farmer's daughter and ending up as an agriculturist.
Wow, that's a powerful story. Wow, oh, that's a great journey. What a transformation. Just wanting to make it better just
Yes.
drove you into going into agriculture. And that's a big role that you have been doing, really making life better within agriculture. That's deeper
Yeah.
purpose. Oh, thank you for sharing that. So what
Mhm.
values have been with you in every chapter of your journey?
Yeah, one of the several things which my father was a policeman before he retired to become a farmer. My mother was a teacher before she retired to become a farmer. Now, putting a policeman and a teacher together equals a lot of discipline. And as I told you, education, going to school was not negotiable. So, as far as I was concerned, what my father needed from me is a girl who is ready to learn. So, the first thing my father taught me is to read, but most importantly, to listen, because after I would read with him. After reading, and my mother was the teacher, but my father was who was doing most of the teaching. After I would read with him, he would ask you exactly what you understand about this story. What he would do is, in order to make it, I think, a bit uncomfortable for you, he would bring my other siblings to listen to what I have understood. Of course, I'm the third child, so my two other siblings knew more than I did, but all the same, because he wanted me to focus, focus. That was always his mantra. So
Wow.
the values I have is one, whatever I decide to do, I focus on it.
Yeah. Wow.
Second, Secondly, integrity is non-negotiable, because my father used to say, normally when there is a complainant, a few people may lie, but there must be some truth somewhere in there. So for him as a policeman, his job was to find that tiny truth. So he would talk to us about his work, about expectations, about what he would discover, and about where all that ends. Because he would insist it is easy to take a shortcut and quickly say you are in the wrong, and you may be right, but it is better when you get to the root. And you can't do that unless, one, you are really honest with yourself, and then two, you focus on the case at that time. So for me, focusing and being honest, really my integrity, my ethics, everything else is negotiable. We can discuss, but those two, no.
Oh, fantastic. Your father played a key role in
Mhm.
helping you being focused, but also introducing another key value, which is integrity.
Yeah.
That's deep. Thank you for that. Now, this is a festive time, a Christmas time. What would you like want people to understand about your purpose during this festive season?
First of all, I'm sure many people have heard that about 30 years ago, I lost my son. It was around Christmas time. What I want to share with people is that whether it is Christmas or Easter or whatever, life goes on. So it is true, my son died around Christmas time. But since then, I have had many more Christmases. That is one. Two, other people have also lost loved ones, but other people have also gotten loved ones. So whenever it is Christmas time, I think about real life. The people, for example, the saints we see, were not born as saints, did not always be saints. So I look at myself, I look at other people around Christmas time, and I'm like, maybe during this year, they made this mistake. And I was angry with them at that time, but it is Christmas time. Life happens and life goes on. So for me, Christmas time is for forgiving. I look at the year, I take note of all those positive things which have happened. I also take note of the not so good things which happened. But as I've said, I chalk all that down to experience. And if I'm the one who made the mistake, I decide that next year I will do better. But for now, I focus and enjoy the moment.
Wow, that is powerful. How what a great way for us to all really have the radiance reborn, just ensuring that we forgive and understand that life happens and life goes on, even when you have lost a son or any loved one. I'm so sorry to hear that. And I hope that anyone who hears that can resonate with your message, your ability to pivot and still continue with what you do as real life continues.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, thank you for this moment. Now, as the year ends, what memories or lessons shine the brightest for you?
Yeah. When you retire, people expect you to be resting all the time. But this old woman is always going here and going there and doing this and the other. So for this year, one of my grandson actually of my sister, was getting married, and the wedding took place in Germany. So what I decided is I have always promised myself a break, so I'm going to take a break. So during the month of October, when Germany is really, we're in Frankfurt, which is really beautiful, we went for the wedding, which was a fantastic occasion. And then after that, 10 days of doing absolutely nothing, but just enjoying life. For me, that was the highlight. And I want to encourage everybody. When you are young, you don't have the money. When you are busy being minister, you are too busy doing that and so on and so forth. When you retire, it is okay to have a purpose to wake up, but take off time to just enjoy.
Enjoy, just enjoy. Take off time to enjoy your life. 10 days of doing nothing.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
is very good. You have played your part, so we have no reason not to really just embrace and also feel the joy of
yeah,
you retiring and just enjoying life. Amazing.
yes.
Yeah,
Mm.
you are so unstoppable. It just feels, it makes me understand why you and Dr. Maggie Chigozie are friends because I feel your power, your energy to continue to go, even if you are in retirement. There
Yeah,
is
yeah,
still deeper calling. We are grateful to have you in our lives, in our path on the world, on the planet to role model what a stellar woman can be like.
yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
Amazing. Now, you have had an extraordinary career in public life, international leadership. What does leadership truly mean to you?
Huh. I'm going to define leadership slightly differently. You know, when you are in leadership and real leadership, it means you have gotten to that stage where you can't blame anybody else for your failures. As a leader, you have to lead, and you have to lead by example. Meaning, if, for example, you are like when I was Minister of Agriculture, I had all the resources in the ministry. I had the money, I had the people, I had the offices, the vehicle, the transport, the whatever. So I had no reason whatsoever not to perform. So for me, that is how I see leadership. Meaning, if and when anybody makes you a leader, like when I became minister, they should give you everything you require and let you play your role. Because sometimes you get these jobs where you are supposed to be a leader, but then decisions are being taken elsewhere. For me, I was lucky. When I had this job, I had it all. Because, for example, when I got into the ministry, having studied exactly what the majority of the people in the ministry had studied, I knew the curriculum they had studied under. I also knew what was lacking because I had not been in the ministry. I have been observing the rest of the world. So when I got in there and I observed that everybody needed refresher training and proceeded to get scholarships practically for everybody. And I told everybody, you have been out of school for 10 years, you are scientists. Whatever you learned has either become obsolete or you have forgotten it. Now I want you to go back to school so that you sharpen and you sharpen your edges of training and all that, and you are ready to serve the public. Fortunately, nearly everybody was keen to go. Why am I saying nearly? I had a few issues with women. First of all, they were in the minority, and I had set a rule that it is 50-50. If we have two scholarships, one goes to a woman, another goes to a man. Then we get to a stage where some women didn't want to go to study. That is when we would sit down and I say exactly what is the problem. And it is interesting what the problem would be. Things like, I don't want to study outside Uganda. And I'm like, that's easy. Makerere University is ready for you. Oh, it is okay, but maybe I'll do East Africa. Arusha was ready for you. So for me, that type of leadership where you know it, like I said, you focus on it and you make sure it happens. It worked for me. In fact, the reason people think I was a good minister is because I was facilitated. One, I was facilitated, and because I was listening, I was focusing. At that time, for me, nothing else existed other than my ministry, the Minister of Agriculture. I knew everybody. I even knew the drivers.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's real leadership. Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
just leading by example and yeah, fantastic. Not giving people the ability to discern what is the issue, what is their problem, listening deeply to what the issues could be and ensuring that they still progress. That's
Yes.
fantastic. Now, you led Ministry of Agriculture during the very important time for Uganda. What helped you to say yes to this big responsibility?
No, first of all, I did not wake up and become Minister of Agriculture. The first step was I became Deputy Minister of Agriculture. And I was working under a very senior minister, late Robert Kitariko, had been in government for years. So he was my senior minister. And so I served as deputy minister for 2 years. And during those days, when you became deputy minister, you had several coaching and mentoring sessions preparing you to become a senior minister. So 2 years later, when I became full minister, I knew what I was doing. I knew what it entailed. I also knew what the country expected of me, especially leading the Ministry of Agriculture, which was the ministry growing the economy of the country while feeding the country every single day.
Wow. Amazing. Feeding the country, but also growing the industry. And
Yeah,
I felt the aspect of coaching and mentoring being
yeah,
here in transforming you into the leader that you became.
yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Wow. So what moment from those years still fills you with warmth and pride when you look back?
There are many, but the one which I will remember for a long, long time, there are two which I will remember for a long time. When I became, before becoming a minister, I was working with the Uganda Development Bank. And as such, we had a cooperative savings unit. When I left the bank, I took my savings and bought myself a cow. I used to stay somewhere in Nakasero, Kampala, the headquarters, the capital of Uganda. And I put my cow there and fed it under zero grazing. Because I had a piece of land slightly outside Kampala. So every morning I would go get the grass for the cow. And my cow did so well that for the first 2-3 years, that cow looked after the whole of all the needs of the household. We are taken care of by that one cow. Because I had 3 neighbors who took all my milk. First thing in the morning, 7 a.m., the milkman would milk this milk, deliver it, bring the money. So whatever was needed in the home, the money was there. Now, what I took from this is if I can do it, and I'm an absentee farmer, I'm sure these poor women can actually do it. And that way, they can get the money, but most importantly, they will stay home with their children. They will feed their children better. So that was the first project I did. It was around Entebbe. I remember I was given 120 cows by the United Nations Family Population Fund, which is an anomaly because that is UNFPA. I was Minister of Agriculture. Why did we get the cows? Many people have been thinking how they can talk and explain family planning to young girls. And I told them, for as long as you are poor, you have no time to listen to such. But once poverty is sorted, then most of the women are amenable to other conversations. So we agreed to start with a sample of 120 women in childbearing age. We give you we train you, you prepare the place where the cow is going to stay, and we give you this cow. That cow, which was given around 1989-90, is still ongoing nearly 30 years later. I meet people who tell me they still have the cow. I meet people who tell me that cow sent them to school. But before that, so what fills my heart most? There is a lady, I'll tell you her name because she knows I always talk about her. She called Mchala Ruboa. Mrs. Ruboa she used to make pancakes and sell them in her township. In order to make the pancakes, she would go to the seller of charcoal and borrow charcoal. Then she would borrow the flour, then go to the shop and borrow the cooking oil, and so on, and everything was borrowed. Then she would make these pancakes. The people from the village would come and eat pancakes on credit. So here she was, being in a debt to everybody who mattered in the shopping area, but then everybody who matters has borrowed pancakes and they are not paying. So when her children would go to school, of course there was no school fees. Whenever there was a list of children to go home, it was Mrs. Ruboa's children. Now, Mrs. Ruboa was one of those who got the first cow. And she told me the story that time, because I remember it was around first term, when she got the cow that started selling at the beginning of term, she went straight to the bank, paid all the school fees, and went to the school bursar saying, here, I have paid all the school fees. Here are your fee slips, and here is a jerrycan of milk for you.
Wow.
Even now, 30 years later, I feel good when I hear the story.
Oh my God, it's an amazing story, even how you tell it.
That's what happened. So that one makes my heart warm. A second one, which makes my heart warm, is that around the same time, 1989-90, we started agriculture competitions, looking at the whole of Uganda to see which part of Uganda is performing best and which Ugandan is actually performing best. So at the end of the year, around this Christmas time, we would have an award ceremony for the best farmer. We would invite about 200 farmers. All of them had won in different sectors. And what I remember most is that when, for example, 1-1, a win is a win. Let's say you are the best one in growing cereals, or you are the best one in growing legumes, you are a winner. So these winners would go like 10, would go to the United States, 6 weeks, visit, everything paid. Then another 10 would go to UK, another 10 would go to Denmark, another 10 would go to Egypt, Zimbabwe, Kenya, and then the rest would tour Uganda. It was such a fantastic climax for the farming community that we really all used to look forward to this farming. And during those days, people were so honest that when our judges said you have won, you really have won. It is always my joy when I'm busy doing my business and I meet some of these former winners. And they tell me, oh, you sent me to the United States. I did not even have a passport. That means I had to prepare my passport. I love those two moments.
Yeah. Oh, it's so beautiful. They are both so beautiful, but they are transformational. They are impactful, changing a full generation from just the prizes. And
Yeah.
also Mrs. Lubowa's story. Both of them are just amazing. Wow, well done, well done. That's why you have made so much impact, and we hope you continue to do the same even in your retirement, but also all the others who are witnessing your leadership, who have learned one or two things. And I hope our listeners, our viewers, have just tapped into those two stories to just know that you too are possible. Mrs. Lubowa changed her life. You too can change your life by
Exactly.
making it. Yeah. So what did this, I know that what key aspects in this transformation uh, taught you about people, just people, this transformation with the farmers and these communities? Is there any key lesson that we can get, what you can talk about in terms of people generally?
You know, one of the reasons our countries are called third world and poor and whatever is because every individual home is poor and the sum total of all of us is poor. So the one thing I learned is that it is possible to change a whole village, one homestead at a time. But most importantly, that it is important to really focus. What are they doing? Where are they? Because they have existed all this time. So don't go there thinking you are the Messiah, you are going to change everything. Because even when, for example, we are giving out the cows I was telling you about, not every woman accepted. Some men said it was too much work, which was fine. We let them be. So for me, the one thing I learned is it is important to focus. You know, this general distribution and net going back to see what happened does not work. In the process of, for example, those cows, some women had issues. Like one of them lost her mother and she had to go away for some time and whatever. We saw that giving out the cow and forgetting all about her because she's sorted is not right. So we had to have a system where if you really were at the end of your tether, we would actually come in, take away that cow maybe for a month or two, and then give it back to you. So the most important thing I learned is that find out where I am. If you want to help me, listen to me and work with me. Don't like dump something and disappear and wish me well. So be there for me, focus on me, be there for and with me.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Finding people where they are and listening to them. Uh,
Yes.
a proper full support system. Don't just
Mm,
let them be because
mm,
you've given them a cow. You just,
exactly.
yeah. Oh, wow. That
Yeah.
is really because I would have thought generally that once you're given a cow, you should just have gratitude and take it.
Life happens. Yeah.
Life happens. Life happens.
Yeah.
And we really have to have the compassion if we are really going to be
Exactly.
transform people. Oh, that is great aha moment for me. A great aha moment for me. Yeah, because we can be quite judgmental.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, quite judgmental. That's very important to know. So when we look at all of this, that's a great share in leadership capacity, really. And I believe that women who listen are leaders in their own capacities wherever you are. So take it in this moment to understand how you can actually help and support and bring out the best from people is meeting them where they are and really listening and ensuring that you give full support and not just let people be. Yeah. Fantastic. Now, when we look at the stellar woman that you are, who are the women or mentors who shaped the leadership that the leader that you are today? And what did they teach you, if there were any?
The let me see. The people who shaped me, some of them are women, but most of them are men.
Yes.
When I when I was growing up, I would be class captain and school prefect and all that. That is the easy part. But when you are in national leadership or you are out there in the world, you need a lot more. And the one thing I remember missing when I became minister is there were no women, senior women ministers to sit down and talk to me. When I joined the United Nations, by then there were some 2, 3 women who I knew who were in the United Nations, and I was very lucky. One of them was a Ghanaian lady called Mary Chinare Hesse. She had been UNDP representative in Uganda before, and somehow we had become friends. So by the time I decided to join the UN, at least I knew her. So she sat me down, talked to me, things like, Victoria, at the end of the day, your health is paramount. If you are not feeling well, too bad. Go see your doctor, go rest until you get better, go back to work, and so on and so forth. But so that is one. Then two, I told you about about becoming minister. When I joined politics, it was difficult. So difficult that some people who really love and care for me came to see me to say, because by then I was not yet 40 when I became deputy minister. They came to see me and say, maybe you could have waited. Then one of my lovely nieces came and said, what will happen when this job is finished? Oh, you are too young to be jobless. So you have given up your bank job. Not many people were supportive, unfortunately, most of them women. But I have a friend called Frida Magola, had been working with the government, and at that time she had just retired from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but working in Switzerland, in Geneva, at our embassy. She's the one who came to me and said, Victoria, I want to tell you, you will manage. I've been a secretary for the last 20, 30 years, and I've worked with all those permanent secretaries and the ministers they are talking about. They are not any better than you are. If they have managed, you will manage. I will never forget that conversation. But like I said, I missed senior women to help me, like, share their journeys with me so that I can shape mine. So unfortunately, in most cases, I have either had to learn on the job, and of course I have made my mistakes and learned from them. But fortunately, in a number of cases, there were men who were ready to handhold me and get me there. After all, even the one who gave me the job of minister was a man.
Very good. So that's really important for us to tap into, pass over on understanding that there will be people who love you, who care for you, but they might not support you in the way that you need the support. And
Exactly.
also having an opportunity to listen to those who are willing to see the light that is in you and knowing that you can. If anybody else can, you too can do it. So
Exactly.
just holding on to that actually. Sorry, you are going
Yeah.
to say something, Honorable.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So holding on to that is really important because sometimes you just hold on to the fact that if someone else can, you too can. And that support is not always going to be from just women. There are men
Yeah.
who are willing to take you to your highest level and just take all the support that you can get.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we feel and we know that you're a stellar woman. What does it mean to you to be a stellar woman? And what attributes would you give a stellar woman to be? What are some of those attributes?
The first and most important thing to know is that nobody can do it alone. And of course, I'll give you a specific example. I was minister for just under 10 years, but I was in the same ministry. You know, the fact that I got that ministry and I got all the resources and was able to run it, practically learning on the job as it were, prepared me for my United Nations job. You know, when you are Minister of Agriculture and you started agriculture, and every year there are agriculture meetings taking place all over the world and you are attending, you get seen. And at a certain level, jobs are not gotten by writing an application. Dear sir, I hereby apply for a job. No, you are seen. So the fact that I was minister for 10 years helped the United Nations to see me. And when I joined the United Nations and I was heading a whole region, Southern and Eastern Africa, what opened the eyes of the world to see me. Finally, when I ended up in China, once again, because at that time, the one thing I miss about my China job is this is how I would introduce myself. My name is Victoria Sekitoleko, China. I loved it. But in order to get there, you need to be like propelled there. So if anybody is aspiring to become a stellar woman, I want to tell you the path is there, but normally it is not very clear. At every stage, you need this kind of help, this kind of somebody holding your hand, somebody helping you to focus, leave the little battles to little people and go on, live your own life, follow your own path, and go on with your journey. So you can't do it alone. You don't know it all. Your path, your journey is your journey, but along this journey, you can't do it alone.
Fantastic. That is how you become a stellar woman. You can't do it alone, and your path, of course, is your path, but sometimes it's unclear. Take on
Yes.
support that you need. And I like the fact that you also added the fact that we need to leave the little battles for little people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, you don't focus, which was the key.
Yeah. Exactly.
You don't focus. And that was a
Yeah.
key value you shared already. So we know that women are stopped so much by fear, doubt, limiting beliefs, and sometimes the pressure. Can you share a moment where you rose beyond this fear? Maybe you felt it, you saw it, but you went past it. Is there any moment that is beyond maybe that you could share with us?
Yeah. One time, I don't know what the Uganda government were doing in Kenya. I was with the president and about 5 other cabinet ministers, but all of them were men. The issue with being a woman minister is if you are a lady, you let the president go first. But because the president is a gentleman, he wants the lady to go first. So this particular time, I'm not very far from him, but I'm not behind him. So we got to meet this president of the Republic of Kenya, whose name I would not name, and this guy kissed me. You know, I turned and looked at my president and kept quiet. But immediately after the meeting, I told the president, please explain to all your colleagues that I'm your minister. I'm not like a comfort woman or something like that. Yeah. So, of course, the president played it a bit lightly, but it never happened again. It really took a lot of control to just manage the moment.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you had to focus on what What took you? Yeah, but
Exactly.
yes, wow.
Not fight little battles.
How to fight the little battles. Yet you knew how to win, really. You knew how to win every moment. That's amazing. And thank you for sharing that. So how do you stay grounded and confident, radiant while navigating challenges and responsibilities of leadership?
In a number of cases, really, if you tell yourself that I'm not walking the perfect path, and not everybody is exactly cheering me on. That way you don't get surprised if there is a pothole in the road, or if where you expected a lot of clapping, people are just quiet like they are not there. The moment you take those as real life, everybody will keep asking, how can she be smiling in this environment? And I'm one of those people who believe that unless I'm prepared for that battle, I will not take it on. If anything, I will circumvent it in such a way that sometimes it is okay to look like you didn't understand it or you are a bit foolish, but at the end of the day, you win the battle. Focus, focus, focus.
Okay, very good. Very good, Honorable. We're taking away focus, focus, focus. So you're not always walking a perfect path, and not
Yeah.
everybody's cheering you on. So
Yeah.
you have to understand those elements to really go on to becoming a stellar woman, or going to get into any path that takes you to your highest self. Because we always waiting for people to say you're amazing, this is for you, and they're not there in those moments.
Exactly. Exactly.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Now, so where do you see, if you look at your path, the journey of agriculture, education, and empowerment, where do you see is the greatest need for us women to now advance to become stellar women? What is that? Where do you see the greatest aspect, the greatest need?
The greatest need for me starts with education, right from the word go. When this girl is born, that is where confidence should start from. Because for me, like I said, I was the third born, but then after me, there were two other girls. So our father had five girls in a country where they treasure boys. But our father, being educated himself with a teacher wife, they took everything in stride and made it look like whoever doesn't have daughters is in trouble. We love our daughters and they will shine. So our father would actually talk you into it because some things happened and I kept changing schools from this school to the other school. The school I ended up, I went to one school, P1, P2, P3, another school, P4, another school. Then I went to another school in P5. The school in P4 was teaching exclusively in Lusoga. Now I got P5 and they were teaching exclusively in English. So my father sat me down and said, Victoria, you have always managed. Even this one you manage. It is only English. My. I believed him until I got to the class. It was tough, but because there was nobody saying, oh, my child and whatever, I really stayed with it and I made it. Yeah. So that upbringing is what we have to give our daughters. That is one. Two, we should be there all the time for our daughters. Looking at the past. In the past, the daughters would be with the mother throughout because before schools came, the daughters would be there with the mothers. Now, when schools came, you were either at school or at home with your mother. But unfortunately, now things have changed. We got boarding school, our mother is not there. The system should be prepared in such a way that wherever we are, there is somebody focusing on us to make sure that we are focused. Because not every child is gifted from beginning that they know why they are going to school, they will stay in class, they will do their homework, they clean themselves up, and so on and so forth. So I would like to suggest that I'll call it nurturing system, should be so integrated that this child is brought up as a total package. Thus, the teachers should not stop at teaching English and mathematics. Handle the total person. When this child comes home, even if you did not study what she studied, at least let her tell you the stories. That makes you connected. You know, for me, this connection has to be there. I'm hoping that if this connection is there, with the not only with the mother but with the family, it will give these girls that type of confidence where you talk to some people about what is going on in your life. Because currently, girls turn into teenagers and they have these questions. Unfortunately, the mother herself became pregnant when she was a teenager, did not get these answers, or she has the answers, but does not have the vocabulary to explain to this child what is happening. If we can break that seal where we empower the mothers, an empowered mother will definitely have an empowered daughter. Because sometimes we wait, these girls fall out of school, they are young child mothers, then we want to educate them. Really, when for us in agriculture, if the seed is not a good seed, or if the seedling is bent, you try to straighten it later on, you just break it. So let us start early and stay with these girls until they become responsible adults.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. What a parenting session we've had there. A masterclass in what we are going to do as mothers to raise really confident girls. And I like your upbringing. I think I watched one of the interviews where I learned all of that, how you had to learn in Lusoga and how you had
Yeah.
to, yeah, and then you had to learn English and you were quite dynamic changing schools, but your father really grounding you to
Yeah.
really know that you can be that person and you can do it and always eyeing the best schools. I loved it.
Uh,
Saying my daughter deserves those best schools. And I like the fact that he decides that the daughter will shine and making other people feel like, oh, you wish you had daughters.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah, so I've learned a lot as a mother also of a daughter here. An empowered mother empowers her daughter, and looking at seeds and seedlings as an analogy to transform our thought process in how we can bring out the best in our daughters. Thank you for that. Now, how can African women leaders collaborate to create sustainable progress for the next generation?
Like I said earlier, everything starts in the family. If
Family.
we, yeah, if we can sustain the culture of the family culture, that in itself is a good beginning. Because, like I said, a child grows every single minute. Mistakes happen every single minute. So, if we can be there to see what is happening, see how we write it, uh, who is in charge of what, make sure they are empowered to do what we are talking about. Because, for example, you go to a school and a teacher is having a mental problem. Now, this teacher is let loose on 40 children or 100 children for that matter. Where is all this taking us? So, for me, what I would like to see before we sort out the world, let us first sort out our families, we sort out our villages, then sort out our country, Uganda, so that whatever we share with the world is actually prepared and ready to to shine and show what is happening in Uganda, ready to share it with the rest of the world.
Amazing. Then
Mm,
it can't be taken away from us because it has started from all the way from the family.
exactly.
Yeah, amazing. So this is a great way in which we can transform. So from your perspective, what role do women play in shaping the nation's prosperity?
Really, wealth. when you go to a family, because for me, my life starts with family. When you go to a family, it is normally seen through the eyes of the woman. That is one, even the actions of the woman. When you go to a home where there is plenty to eat, this woman will actually make sure, it is this woman who actually makes sure that it is available and it is shared and how it is shared. When you let's say you go to a school and you ask children, how was it decided that you come to this school? In quite a number of cases, it is the women who will decide this child is going to this school, somehow find the money. And these men proudly tell those stories and say, that school is very expensive, but my wife. So all this eventually leads to the wealth, because for me, I believe that most wealth is in the head. Once somebody has this wealth in their head, they can create anything, especially in a country like Uganda, where wherever you look, you see possibilities, you see opportunities, you see something that you can do and make money out of it. Yes. So if we can have this wealth in the heads of these people, then we shall end up with wealthy leaders who will then lead a wealthy nation.
Wow. Do people know that, what you have just said in Uganda?
I have no idea which you are talking about.
No, the most wealth is in the head, and Uganda is full of possibilities and opportunities. And if most, I've understood that if most wealth is in the head, if we make all our leaders wealthy in that perspective, in the mind, then the whole nation is just going to turn into wealth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can we take a break?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So this Christmas issue is about rebirth. What moment in your life has felt like a true new beginning?
You see, my family normally meets around Christmas. Those who are abroad will normally come. I always love the new entrants. So much so that last year, we actually had to put up one for just the children. Because you know those invitations which are written, so Mr. and Mrs. So and so, you are invited to this, whatever. We love children, but sadly, they are not invited. This time, it was the child who was invited. So the parents only got the invitation if they had children. So when the children, in fact, the youngest, the child was about 7 years, is the one who said, yes, that is how you should write the invitations. Otherwise, they always leave us behind that we are not invited. So I love the new entrants because, I mean, that is how family grow. And that is how we are talking about building confidence. There's no better way to build confidence than knowing that you belong to a strong unit. You are part of that. You are loved. You are accepted. So during Christmas, that is the one thing I see. And the second thing which I normally see is the love and the willingness to share. Because quite often when people are invited, you know, some people will surprise you with the contributions they make. You're like, wow, this is fantastic. So even if it is not daily, I'm glad that this time it is happening. Then it is the sharing, the love, the understanding, but most importantly, the welcoming of the new entrants.
The welcoming of the new entrants.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, they are blessed. They are really blessed to have you with that perspective. Yeah. Very good. Now we have so after, maybe before I ask that one, you know, the aspect that you're from Uganda, Africa, going to China, Korea, all these other parts of the world. What did you learn across all these different cultures? Or is there anything that you learned that cuts across or that makes a big difference?
I'll give you an example which you decide how you take it. You know, in Uganda, we love to shake hands. We shake hands. We can shake hands for like 5 minutes. We are shaking hands. Now I go to Zimbabwe. In Zimbabwe, they don't shake hands. They just clap. If I'm happy to see you, I'll clap gently. The men will clap in a certain way, the women will clap in a certain way. So you come from Uganda, you drape in Zimbabwe, you have to learn that. Now, 9 years later, I moved from Zimbabwe to Ethiopia. The Ethiopians love to hug. They will hug a baby, old woman, well, you name it, they will hug them. Now you are coming from Zimbabwe where they don't touch. You go to Ethiopia where they really hug and love and so on and so forth. Then you go to China. Once again, they don't touch, they don't clap, they just bow. So what you have to make sure when you wake up, you know what part of the world you are waking up in, you know what their culture is. So that was the difference. But the common denominator was the hospitality. I'll start with China this time. You know, most of what we know about China from the media is not China. Sadly, China has been terribly misrepresented. So I was really happy to live in China for 5 years so that I saw the real China. Because while I was based in Beijing, I was traveling all the time to the provinces, to the rural areas and all that. And of course, in the process of 5 years, really, you make friends who are just people who are your friends. And you see, they invite you home. They love inviting people home because especially in rural areas, many Chinese had never been close to an African. So when you go, the whole clan comes to meet you and you really have fun. The same with Ethiopia. The Ethiopians are extremely generous. So generous that they would invite me and my husband and maybe my 2 children, 4 people, and they kill a whole sheep because they are having visitors. And we're like, what on earth is happening here? Zimbabwe was slightly different. So as you go through life, you see things which are different. You see the truth. You uncover what the media has been telling you. You get there and you're like, oh, this is not what I expected. So those were my travels. Oh, of course, when I went to North Korea, because whenever I tell people I worked in Korea, they think it is South Korea. I worked in North Korea. When I went to North Korea, that is another country which is extremely generous. They are poor. They have all sorts of sanctions against them. But it is very interesting how they survive in spite of all that. It is very interesting what they have done with what nature has given them in order to still survive several years under that type of regime. So in spite of their poverty, they were also very generous.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you for sharing that great experience. I like the fact that there's shaking, there's clapping, there's hugging, and also there's bowing. Okay.
Yeah.
All of these are diverse aspects, but also there's a uniformity of hospitality across the board that people have. Wow. So after such a big global career, what called you back home to start again?
For me, right from the day I got my job with the United Nations, I knew I was going to come home. In fact, the first thing I did when I had settled in my new station is to find out what I can learn from there. And in the process of finding out, I discovered that they had a lot of colleges which were not like normal colleges anywhere. For example, they had a college where they teach public speaking. So I enrolled. Then they had another one where they taught counseling. So I enrolled. Because there are those things, there are those topics which we think can just rub onto you. Honestly, after attending my first public speaking class and second public speaking class, I felt like going back through my life and picking up every speech I've made before and doing it all over again. Yeah. Then as you are growing up, especially in our African culture, the elders are supposed to be the counselors. So it is important that if you were not coached by the elders, which is not happening these days, you go to this school and actually learn what counseling is all about, how you can do it, and how you can be useful, not only to your to the society, but to yourself. Because sometimes when there is a situation, some of us, especially women, we have a way of practically taking it upon ourselves, like we can save the whole world. So I was really lucky to go to these colleges, and I have my certificates. I attended, I did my homework, even if in every class I was about 20 years older than both the teachers and my fellow students. That was okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really good to learn to be humble, to embrace learning at all times because the teachers don't have to be at a certain age. Your teachers can be anybody, anytime. Oh, that's good, but it's very humbling for us to know that even at that point you felt your public speaking classes were really worthy that you
Oh,
could
yeah.
even go back and change your speeches. That's amazing. Um, so could I ask what inspired you then to build Speakers Forum to support people in speaking? Is that where it started from?
That is where it started from. Basically, because while, when you get into leadership, you start interviewing people for jobs, and you would look at this CV. And actually, when you talk to this person technically, you see that they are qualified. But when they face an interview panel, they start fidgeting like, what is all this? When you tell somebody to pitch, you want this job in 3 minutes, just give us a justification as to why you should get that job. They are like, oh, you see, I have given you my CV. And I'm like, who taught this person? So knowing, having lived this and knowing what type of education we have in Uganda, I'm like, when I retire, I'm going to set up a school to teach people public speaking. But let me tell you the most interesting thing about teaching Ugandans public speaking. The more senior they are, the more difficult they are to teach. If somebody, for example, has a master's or a doctorate, they don't think you have anything to teach them. That is until they actually take the first step, sit in the class, and 3 lessons later, they are like, oh my God, I should have started with this. So whatever qualifications you have, if you are not articulate, you are half educated. That's the way I look at it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's how that's perfect for us to really understand what you mean. So
Mhm.
whatever job you have, if you're not articulate,
Yeah.
you're half educated.
For me, that's the way I look at it. Because if you can tell us, Stella, I ask you, what do you do? And you're like, oh, you see, I sent you an email. Just
Ah,
say it if you know it, say it in 2 sentences.
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Amazing. Thank you for that. That's a good one. So how has this work changed the way you see the power of voice and knowledge?
I First of all, when you are going to school, for example, there are people who are always vocal. They always have an opinion on this or the other.
Mhm.
What they don't know is the effect they are having on everybody else. So because I have now learned that, that is one. Two, even when I'm living my ordinary life, when I talk to you and I look at your body language, I can very easily tell when we start telling lies, when we start doubting ourselves, when we should stop. So all that helps me when I'm dealing with people. I see what they haven't said, I hear what they haven't vocalized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once we're in your audience, we have to think about everything.
Not necessarily, because in quite a number of cases, I'm just living my life, not even minding you. In fact, that is another thing you learn when you do public speaking. People don't have so much time for you. And that is why we say you had better be articulate. Otherwise, nobody has time for you. We are not your mothers. Even your mother gets old and gets tired waiting for you to articulate. uh,
Amazing. So
yeah.
if 2026 were a blank page, you could write on? What vision would you create for women in Uganda, in Africa, and in the world?
The first thing I would say is it really is glorious to be born a woman. You wake up and you realize that you are a woman. We have got power in our hands, but quite often we are not nurtured properly in order to utilize that power. I say this because through my life, I have lived closely with men and women. I have a rough idea about men's fears, women's fears, and all that. If all the women understood the fears of the men, then they would understand their own power. So if everybody born female could be nurtured and prepared to enhance and take advantage of the God-given power, because in quite a number of cultures, the way things are done, the power is given to women, but in quite a number of cases, we keep taking this power and either giving it back to men or pretending that we are giving it back. So it ends up somewhere halfway. You were expected to do it, you didn't do it. The man didn't do it because he expected you to do it, but somehow, because it was not properly articulated, it is not done. So what I would like to tell all the women in the world is that it is great to be born a woman. We are powerful. You are lucky if you have been nurtured to actually embrace this power. If you haven't, but you have a chance to go and associate with the empowered women, please don't give up. You are alive, you are healthy. That's a good beginning. Enjoy the rest of your life.
Wow. Fantastic. So it's really glorious to be women and to be able to understand the power we hold as women. That is very important and really to do with nurturing us or nurturing the next generation to understand this power. And if we understand the fears of men, then we will be able to understand our own power.
Exactly.
Oh, fantastic. So, we know that Christmas carries a spirit of gratitude. What blessings from your journey stand out this year?
For this year, I thank God for the blessing of being a mother. Like I said, a mother, a grandmother, and a foster mother.
Yeah.
Maybe I should say something about being a foster mother. I've got, because when I retired, one of the resolutions I made is I'm going to make new friends, but most of the friends I make are definitely going to be much younger than me. If you are my age and until now we are not friends, I'm sorry that bus left. So I'm very grateful for those young people who God has brought in my life. I'm happy that I have been used as a foster mother, where most mothers are either physically not there, passed on or unwell or anything like that. I really thank God for enabling me to play that role. Of course, I've always thanked the good Lord above for my children and my grandchildren. I thank God for my good neighborhood and my fantastic neighbors. So all that has really brought a lot of joy in my life. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. That is why I have decided this year I'm not going anywhere for Christmas. I'm going to be here. Lest somebody wants somebody to visit who will welcome them, I'll be here.
Amazing. We give glory for that as well. Amazing. For those blessings. Uh, So when you think about your life, I know the foster child, fostering these young generation is key. Uh, is it the one that fills your heart the most?
What fills my heart the most is when I host family and when my health is good. You know, when I see people younger than me suffering from this and the other, and I look at my health, I just kneel down and thank the good Lord above that I'm well, I'm fit, and I can enjoy my life. Because even that business of hosting the family or fostering children, you need first and foremost your good health. So I thank God that I'm blessed with good health, and I'm also blessed with the resources to do what I'm talking about.
Yes, yes. Good health and resources. That's very important. Okay, so what message of hope would you love women to hold close to this Christmas?
The first and most important thing is the fact that they should love themselves, because there's nothing more difficult than dealing with a woman who does not love herself. There are women, the moment you sit down, they'll tell you how they don't like their hair, they don't like their skin color, they don't like their legs. That's what you have. Some of these things are not negotiable. If anything, I would love for you to say, this is what I have. I love it. And because somebody was complaining to me about her legs, and I told her, you still have them. My friend's husband has just lost his leg. So even if his leg had been crooked, it would have been better off being there. So if we could learn to love what we have and do the best with what we have. Because this particular friend, okay, her legs are a bit thin and all that. I told her that is why we have these trousers, we have these long dresses, we have these bell bottoms and the flared trousers and all that. Just slay those and make it your style. Who cares? So
Yes.
if everybody could learn to love what they have and do the best with what they have. Because I remember growing up, people used to have issues with very thick, curled hair. Now, when treatment started, it is those people who had the curled, thick hair who ended up with the most beautiful hair. So when I say do the best with what you have, that's what I'm talking about.
Exactly,
To
exactly.
have beautiful teeth, just make them so white that we don't see if there is any malformation in there.
That's fantastic. It's almost what they call making lemonade out of lemons.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's amazing. Okay, so as we enter into the new year, what dreams and ideas are lighting you up? We're looking forward.
I don't know whether it is the views, but it is what I see. I like it when I attend young people's meetings and I see the angle from which they look at the world. You know, sometime back I attended this meeting where we were talking about job employment, and the Minister of Labor came in and was promising to create jobs for young people and all that. Unfortunately, he had missed most of the meeting where the young people were pointing out where the jobs are. But most of where these young people see jobs, for us as older people, we do not even have the spectacles to see those jobs. So the one thing that makes me happy is that these young people are not sitting there lamenting, cursing, and waiting for us to retire. For me, I retired a long time ago. They are coming up with ideas and actually making money out of those brilliant ideas. So for me, that keeps me happy and going. I can see that very soon they will be in charge and they will know what they are talking about because they will be in a completely different decade.
Amazing. Oh, very good. Very good. So, what advice would you give the 15-year-old Victoria? I know she was dynamic, she was focused, she was many things, but what advice would you go back and give her today if you had to meet her?
Maybe I could have done, what could I have done differently? I could have done more sports.
Yeah, what
Of
sports?
all, yeah, of all the things which were at school, I partook on everything except sports. I was really, how can I say, I was medium.
Oh, so
I
you still did something, is it?
I played hockey,
Oh,
but as part of the class, not like I was a part of the school team or anything like that.
mm.
So two things I could have done differently. I could have done a lot more sports, and then I could have attended more church services.
More church services. So
Yes,
she would need to go more to church and she would need to do more sports.
and read the Bible a bit more deeply.
All right. Yeah.
Some of these
Okay.
things should be done early so that when you are much older,
Mm.
they are already there. You are just sharpening.
You're just sharpening them. I'm sure she would be grateful for that. And she has already utilized the knowledge already. She's using them. Yeah.
Exactly.
So what final Christmas blessing or message of new beginnings would you like to share with our readers, our listeners and viewers?
This is what I would like to say. Whatever part of the world you are there. Stop looking over the fence and wishing for this and wishing for the other. Look around where you are. What can you do different in order to get that magical world? Because the world is what you make of it. Create it. You want it, create it. If, for example, you are in a foreign land, but you came from somewhere else, and that somewhere else where you left is actually looking better than where you are, take courage, pack up, go home. You don't have to explain to anybody. Like I said, everybody have got their own baggage. So carry yours, face life, live life, tread your path. This is your personal journey. Only you can walk it.
Wow. Perfect. Tread your path. Yes, yes, yes. The world is what you make it. So we are going to have to utilize that
Yeah,
and have an understanding that you are where you are. Make the best out of that. If you have to go elsewhere, pack up and go and do what you have to do. Yeah,
exactly.
stop looking over the fence for something else. Very
Mhm.
good. So we always want to leave a challenge for all our subscribers and listeners, and we want the stellar women to do that. And we want them now to help them rise radiant and thrive in their lives. What's the one challenge you want to give our subscribers and listeners?
For 2026, find just one hand which is looking to be held so that they can thrive and go with it. I want to tell you it is not going to be easy, but don't ever think of giving up.
Fantastic. That's a great challenge. Thank you so much, Honorable Victoria Sekitoleko. Thank you for your time. It has been a great honor. I've just been in a masterclass of life, of leadership, of becoming a stellar woman. I've just learned so much, and my prayer is to really utilize the knowledge, and for you all, our listeners and subscribers, to utilize this knowledge. The knowledge has come to you, it has landed in your ears or your hands, wherever it is. Please use it. Do you have a final message, Honorable Victoria?
Yeah, I wish everybody a Merry Christmas, but most importantly, I wish you happiness and great health. Thank you.
Fantastic. Echoing your words, yes, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year that is coming your way in good health. Please be present with your families. Learn to focus, and remember to hold a hand. See someone that you can hold a hand to and help them to also rise up and thrive. Learn a lot that we have learned today from the Honorable Minister, a lot of things that you can learn from. Remember her values of focus and integrity and learning not to look into the face, look at your life. You have your own path and use it. And remember, you can't do things alone. Look at the support that is there, utilize it, and move up. Life happens. All of those things we have to utilize. Now it's time to radiate from the knowledge that has been transferred. It has been really a great honor. All of you tap into this knowledge and go on, make a change in your lives, in your families, your community, and let's make this world a better world. Become a stellar woman. Thank you. Until next time, Merry Christmas, all of you, and bye-bye. Bye.